right, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining my presentation. Since it's a power talk, I'll just try to power through it. So my presentation is basically on Clubhouse and different ways teachers can use it and students can use it to learn better and become more social online. Now, I'll go through the ins and outs of what is Clubhouse, how does it work. I'll go through some of the themes and topics that are available on Clubhouse and which ones are more appropriate for students. And I have some activity ideas for students. I've used some of them. I'm still trialing some other ideas that I've got on the list. 3 activity ideas for teachers, some pros and cons, because there's a little bit of negativity and positivity on the other side about Clubhouse, and some takeaway web resources for you to read. And if we get the time, I'm happy to answer some questions. So what is Clubhouse and how does it work? It's an invite-only social chat app. They introduced it in the US in March 2020, last year. And it was first open to celebrities in the US. And gradually they started, opening it up to the general public, but it's still an invite-only social chat app. So you really need to have an invitation, but once you get the invitation to join, you join and register your name and your phone number. Sometimes what they do is they register your ID because of the similarities of the names around the world. So it takes, some time. For me, it took probably 2 months to stand in queue, and then I got a text from Clubhouse saying, well, someone invited you, now you can join in, you've got your ID registered. There are a range of topics to follow on the platform that I'm going to go through. You can either be a listener or a speaker. A lot of the people that I know on Clubhouse are listeners because they prefer to just listen and learn and see what the world has to offer, basically. Anyone can create a room with their topic of interest, which is a really good point. But also because you have open rooms and closed rooms, it really depends on how you want to communicate with the world and your students and other teachers as well. So themes and topics, as you can see: tech, hanging out, life, art, sports, identity, knowledge, places, wellness, entertainment, hustle, faith, world affairs, languages. Obviously, what I suggest my students is, pick and choose the topics that are really meaningful to them, and generally avoid some other topics like hanging out. Can be a bit weird sometimes because you've got everyone talking about basically everything. So it's not 100% like a student sort of safe space. That's why I tell my students, I give them the awareness to choose the topics that are a bit more, relevant to students. Now, activities for students. Oops. Now, the first thing, this is my students' most favorite activity. I ask them to read and recite, and they love it. I give them an impromptu text to read, so they wait for Fridays at about 1:30 p.m. Japan time every Friday, and they come in. I give them the text, they start reading, give them probably 20 minutes, 25 minutes. Others take notes if they like to, and then sometimes I just write the words that I want to sort of correct in terms of pronunciation, and they really appreciate that time. And again, the surprise factor in getting a text and starting to read, because they don't want to prepare for it. I don't want them to prepare for it. I just want it to be a surprise. The other activity is visiting a social room and sharing a weekly recap. Students visit a Clubhouse room during the week, take notes and recap and share. One thing about this activity is that it gives them the confidence to go out and speak to the world and make friends. So one of my students went out and started a room for himself and started teaching Japanese and doing an language exchange with foreigners. He made some friends, which was really fun. But some students don't like it because because they're not sociable, they're shy, they don't like to sort of encounter a crowd of, foreigners, strangers. The other activity that we do is the story time. They bring a story to the room, they read it, they act it out. And again, it's a fun activity because it's casual. They don't have to prepare for it. They just sit there and listen to a story, and they ask questions if they like to, or they just take a nap. Now, the other activity is Clubhouse conferencing. My students set up a topic and their own room, and they invite me to join them. They schedule a session. They invite other friends as well if they like to, and they moderate their own rooms with their own rules. So that's another thing that I want them to become moderators on Clubhouse, because I want them to get that confidence to, run a room, run a conference, because that's a different type of, that's a different capability for them to become moderators and become confident in leading a group of students. The other activity, and the last one for students, is Change My Mind. This is another fun activity. Not everyone is a fan, but here's how it works. Students give a short talk on a topic and specify a viewpoint they have about it. It's sort of like an argumentative essay, but it's spoken, obviously. And room members try to change the moderator's mind. So they argue about it and they try to change their minds. Some activities for the teachers. Social breakfast on Clubhouse. You can set up a closed room or an open room and start a casual chat and exchange ideas. I don't know if there's any similar room for teachers in Australia, or if anyone knows any rooms in their states, in their cities, or you can start a discussion on a topic of interest and invite others to learn. The other thing is joining, reading, and discussing texts of interest. This is a group that I follow on Clubhouse. As you can see, this is a snapshot. These teachers read a chapter of a book. They go page by page. They stop. They ask questions. Others ask questions. It's a live sort of a live radio, and you join in. You're part of that radio, and I learned a lot. The last thing that I think is a really valuable tool is freelance teaching. So if you like to freelance, obviously on Clubhouse you can. And the good thing about Clubhouse now is that they are offering a payment option. So if you want to arrange your own sort of class on Clubhouse on a casual basis, they can make payments as well if they like to. And as you can see, this is a 24/7 room, but obviously the teachers are not there 24/7 on Clubhouse. Now, these are some examples. So as you can see, the first one is it's a club that you can follow. This is a membership only club. This is a club that you can follow again, and other groups. These are just examples. I just wanted to show you how they look like and how you can follow them. These are rooms for learners. Some students like to practice, for a test. This is another good tool for them. Duolingo language group. They've got 91,000 followers. And the good thing about Clubhouse is that 91,000 people. So you don't have, I don't think you have robots and, scammers or anyone like that, because again, you need to register for it. You have to be a real person with a phone number, with an ID, etc., etc. You get a link, you click on it. So this is another example for a club. And yeah, so some more examples, some clubs. This is the language exchange partner. This is a favorite of some of my students. They've made a lot of friends from around the world. And again, it's a really good tool because a lot of the students are at home. A lot of my students, they're in Japan. They have lockdown after lockdown, most of them. And it's a really good thing for them to be in touch with other students from other countries. Now, this is a local room. Obviously, it's in Japanese, and they've got all the information down in Japanese for the students. And They get Japanese teachers teaching exams, for example. So this is another bit of sort of a good connection for them to connect with the teachers there in Japan or get some ideas from other students. Some pros: it provides a social space for students to practice. As I said, it helps my students a lot because they get to be social and see more than just other students in our program and in our class. It gives them the chance to speak up among strangers and gain confidence. Some of my students don't like this because, you know, it makes them uncomfortable to speak to strangers, even in a language group, for example. It helps the students get in touch with experts in various fields. I've made an example of that club for language testing. It can act as an immersive environment for students because, again, although they're in touch with other students from around the world, sometimes they go into a room and, you know, someone is talking about language learning, for example. The teacher is giving a talk or they're listening to a podcast on language learning and they're just there and listen to it live. Teachers and students can have a casual space to talk during a time of global isolation. So I think that's the most valuable thing to connect the students with the world. Now, cons: it's invite only at the moment. I don't know if it's going to change, but you have at the beginning, you have two like invitation capabilities to hand out, but it keeps increasing by the time, but I don't know how. So I've got a few invitations that I can hand out to anyone who's interested today, who's interested to join. The Android app is new and it requires time to adapt and get bug fixes. So some people get kicked out of Clubhouse from time to time because it's not really 100% Android friendly. Like any other social media app has its challenges and issues. The good thing is that Clubhouse is now saying that they record the conversations and all the talks in groups and they retain them for a couple of days, just in case anyone files a complaint or if there is harassment or whatever, they can follow up and have a record of it. So that's really safe. But again, is it 100% safe? It's a social media app. Some useful links that I'm happy to share send it through the website. And thank you for listening. If you feel like getting in contact, I'm available here. And I think time for some Q&A.
Thanks so much for that, Amin. There's so many possibilities. It's great seeing new apps and getting introduced to them. One of the questions that Claire has is how long does it take for students to be allowed into Clubhouse? So once the teacher's in, can they invite the student in quickly or does it take some time?
You can just invite them quickly. You have to, so that it has this option that it's called pinging. So you ping the students once you start a room and then the students come in and you have to make them a speaker because naturally they become a listener in the group. So you have to make them the speaker. And then what I do with my students is once I leave a room, because I have a limited time, I don't give them like 10 hours of talk time. But if I leave a room, I just make them moderators so that they can run the room for themselves.
Okay, yeah, thank you. And Zlata is asking if you've seen students continuing to visit the rooms after they finish their courses.
Well, yes, that's a good thing because you can close a room on Clubhouse. It's not something permanent, so it doesn't stay forever. It's not like a club. So you can start a club, but it doesn't really functions as a club. Once you start a room, you close it, it expires within a couple of hours. So it doesn't stay on and they can continue or they can ping you. You can join the room whenever they like and you like. So, yeah.
Okay, great, thank you. There's one more question in the Q&A, Amin, so if you don't mind just going in and typing your answer to that would be fantastic. Thanks again.
Sure. No worries, thank you. Thanks, Sophie.